Hey everyone, welcome to Redwood National and State Parks. I'm here over at Lady Bird Johnson Grove, and I'm actually here with my park partners to celebrate Climate Week. We here at Redwood National State Parks are home to the tallest trees in the world. And these trees are amazing climate champions that are capable of storing immense amounts of carbon inside of their heartwood. So essentially, they help us mitigate the impacts of climate change by storing carbon, giving us cleaner air and water, and supporting wildlife and humans that live in the area. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of our park partners with California State Parks so that you guys can learn more about the Redwood Forest.
Thank you so much, Karla. And Coast Redwoods have actually adapted to climate change for a very, very long time. You can date their genetics back to when there was dinosaurs in the world. There was actually a whole group of redwoods and trees like this, but due to climatic changes, some of them had to recede to different parts of the world. Some of them simply went extinct. However, right behind me, we have one of those champion climate trees that was able to adapt to these millions of years of climate changes. So today, we are seeing such incredible adaptations and different things that we now are coming to find out about how redwood trees are reacting to these current, anthropocentric climate changes. So we have Kyle that's going to tell you a little bit more about some of these things that we're just finding out.
Oh, thanks so much, Erika. Yes. So I want to talk about what these redwood trees are doing right now in response to the climate change that we're seeing in the world. So a really interesting thing about these coast redwoods is that they're actually a climate winner. They're actually benefiting from some of the things that are causing climate change. So one of the main drivers of climate change is rampant levels of CO2 in our atmosphere. These are common emissions like from your cars. It also can happen from different types of production that all release CO2 into the atmosphere. Now, a certain level of CO2 in our atmosphere is normal, but with the amount that we're producing, there's way more than a normal amount, and so we call that rampant levels of CO2. Now, redwood trees, when they're growing, what actually builds the majority of their mass, what makes these giant trees so giant, is carbon. That's what they're building off of. And we're able to kind of look and see how carbon is affecting these trees with these increased levels of carbon in our atmosphere. So when a tree grows, every year they put on rings. If we were to take a cross section or cut horizontally across this tree, we could open it up and you'd see these growth rings on the inside of the tree. Some of you might be familiar with this, counting the rings to be able to tell the age of a tree. We have a cross section right here, so you can see some of those rings. And now the dark part is the winter growth, so you can see it doesn't grow very much in the winter. And then the light part is the summer growth, so that's when we're getting most of our growth going on. For comparison, here's a kind of piece of old growth redwood. You can see how close together those rings are because they're growing really, really, really slow. Now what we're seeing is that the redwood trees with increased amounts of CO2 in our atmosphere, our rings are starting to look more like this, where the tree is growing at a faster rate as it gets older due to those rampant levels of CO2 in our atmosphere. It's really interesting. So while the redwood trees do benefit from one of the causes of climate change, those increased effects of CO2 in the atmosphere, there are a lot of other things going on that can potentially harm a redwood tree. With the increased temperatures, increased fuel loads, we have a higher fire danger. While redwood trees are adapted to deal with a certain amount of fire, a lot of fire can be detrimental to them and really harmful to the forest. We also have things like sea level rise that'll change the distribution of where these redwood trees can even grow. And with those increased temperatures, we're also seeing less rainfall, less fog that these redwood trees rely on, up to 30% of their moisture coming from fog. So all of these things can definitely not benefit the tree. But as far as CO2 goes, these redwood trees are actually growing at a faster rate.